Picture this. What if you discovered that your greatest grandparents weren't all exactly human? Well, at least not the same kind of human. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to untangle the incredibly complex genetic web of how ancient humans intertwined. I absolutely love diving into this topic because it takes something that feels incredibly ancient and distant and makes it, well, deeply personal to us today. We're going to completely unravel the fascinating story of our ancient human families.
And that brings us right to a core forensic mystery. Did ancient humans actually fall in love? It's a pretty captivating question to kick things off, right? There's a very good chance you are carrying hard proof of an ancient relationship inside your own DNA right now. But we have to ask ourselves, were these prehistoric couples actually falling for each other? Or is the idea of ancient romance just a modern fairy tale we've projected onto the past?
So here's why this matters to you specifically. If you have European or Asian ancestry, you are likely carrying between 1% and 2% Neanderthal DNA. That isn't just a fun piece of cocktail party trivia. To put that into perspective, it means that somewhere, tens of thousands of years ago, a Neanderthal and a modern Homo sapiens met, had children, and those children had descendants that eventually led to millions of us walking around today. You are literally the living proof of those ancient encounters.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, Unearthing Ancient Families. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to zoom out from the microscopic DNA inside us and look at the physical evidence dug right out of the earth. You know, for decades, the leading scientific theory was that Neanderthals just vanished when modern humans showed up in Europe. But the truth is much wilder. Neanderthals didn't vanish without a trace. They are still here, inside us. DNA sequencing technology absolutely revolutionized our understanding of human history here. When researchers finally sequenced ancient Neanderthal genomes, they realized these two groups didn't just share the same geography. They shared lives and had children together. This wasn't some myth. It actually happened. And what's truly mind-boggling about this evidence is the sheer timeline it covers. We used to think interbreeding happened relatively late in the game, but archaeologists in Israel found a 5-year-old child skull dating back roughly 140,000 years, showing early physical evidence of mixed populations. Then jump all the way forward to 28,000 years ago, with the Lapidel Valley child discovered in Portugal, a skeleton with a clear mix of Neanderthal and modern human features. This shows us that these mixed families were absolutely not a one-off event. They spanned an enormous sweeping amount of time.
Moving on to our next piece of the puzzle, the chromosome clue.
Let's put on our forensic hats for a second. To figure out the actual mechanics of how these groups merged, scientists started hunting for an invisible genetic fingerprint hidden deep inside our chromosomes. And when analyzing the ancient DNA, they noticed a massive genetic imbalance. It wasn't just a 50-50 equal exchange. The genetic signatures strongly suggest that most successful surviving lineages actually came from pairings between a male Neanderthal and a female Homo sapiens. The reverse combination, a female Neanderthal and a male Homo sapiens, seems to have contributed far less to the DNA we see in populations today.
So how do we actually know that? Well, Neanderthal X chromosomes contain significantly more Homo sapiens ancestry. Because humans inherit X chromosomes differently depending on their parents, this imbalance is the exact crucial clue scientists needed to crack the case. It perfectly fits a scenario where female modern humans contributed much more often to the surviving Neanderthal descendants. It is literally an invisible genetic fingerprint that somehow survived for tens of thousands of years.
Which brings us to a slightly heavier section: romance or dark reality. We really need to pause and ask ourselves what this data actually means, especially to address the viral internet myths that completely exploded when this research first dropped. You've almost certainly seen sensationalist headlines claiming Neanderthal men preferred human women, or fluffy articles calling it the very first interracial romance. While those headlines definitely make for a great story, we've got to smash that expectation right now. We have to look at what the genetics actually support, completely stripped of our modern romanticizing.
The reality of these ancient encounters was incredibly varied. Much like we observe in our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, interactions between different groups ranged wildly. We are definitely talking about mutual partnerships, peaceful migration, and perhaps romance for sure. But we are also looking at conflict and non-consensual encounters. The ancient world was incredibly complex, and interactions spanned the entire spectrum, from peaceful cooperation to very dark, violent events.
And this brings us to perhaps the most absolutely crucial distinction you should take away from this explainer today. Genetics only reveal descendants. They do not reveal emotions. The fossil record and our DNA prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these populations mixed. But they simply cannot answer the emotional reality of those relationships. Did they love each other? The DNA is forever silent on those questions. And this brilliantly illustrates our next concept: extinction by absorption. This leads us to a pretty mind-bending demographic theory about what actually happened to the Neanderthals. It suggests that the act of interbreeding itself might have caused their end. Let's break this down logically. Step 1. Interbreeding occurs between the two groups. Step 2. The Neanderthal population, which was already relatively small compared to modern humans, begins to shrink as an independent group. Step 3. They are gradually absorbed entirely into the much larger, rapidly expanding Homo sapiens population. So rather than being wiped out completely by an asteroid or a plague, they slowly just became a part of us. They survived, but as part of humanity itself. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the ancient human web. Our family tree is not some neat, straight, simple line from the past to the present. It's a wildly tangled, messy web filled with other forgotten characters. Enter the Denisovans. They are an extinct group of ancient humans who interbred with both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. That's right, there was a whole third group in the mix. This cements the idea that multiple human groups were out there sharing genes across the ancient world. In fact, Denisovan DNA still lives on today, especially in modern populations in parts of Oceania and Asia. Let's look even deeper and see how this builds into the social fabric of the time. Archaeological evidence strongly hints that women moving between groups was an ancient tradition. This is a massive revelation, folks. It tells us that these interactions may not have just been random chance encounters out in the wilderness. Instead, they were likely shaped by structured social customs that existed tens of thousands of years before anyone ever invented written history. They had complex societies and deep networks. It really all comes together into one continuous, sweeping epic. Human groups met, they separated, they reunited, and they shared genes over millennia. Every new fossil we dig up, every single new genome we sequence, reveals just how deeply intertwined our ancient communities truly were. We were never completely isolated worlds. We were a continuously connecting and reconnecting global network over thousands of generations. Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to ponder. If you could sit down and ask a Neanderthal just one question, what would it be? Think about everything we've uncovered in this explainer, the mystery of their disappearance, the undeniable genetic link we share, the harsh realities of their daily lives. Drop your answer in the comments below. I'd absolutely love to hear what you would ask our ancient ancestors. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and stay curious.